Hello, and welcome to the Vlogging Pod. In a world where blurred lines have become standard in the headlines, it's getting harder to tell who exactly is serving who. Across the United States, particularly in 2025, the distinction between local law enforcement and federal immigration agencies like ICE has grown dangerously murky. In Los Angeles, what began as protests, ICE enforcement quickly devolved into something darker. Footage captured LAPD officers riding on horseback through crowds, knocking over protesters, firing rubber bullets into crowds, and deploying tear gas on streets already clouded with chaos. Among those injured were Nine News Australia correspondent Lauren Tomasky, struck live on air while covering what was supposed to be a peaceful demonstration. A federal judge later issued a 14-day restraining order against the LAPD, citing over 30 documented cases where journalists were attacked or detained, many without cause. The city's officials defend the police, calling it crowd control. But when the press becomes a target, it's no longer just about control, it's about a narrative enforcement. At the same time, halfway across the country in Windscale County, Iowa, Sheriff Dan Marks made headlines for standing against ICE, refusing to honor detainer requests that lacked a signed judicial warrant. Marks argued that to do otherwise would violate the Fourth Amendment. His refusal triggered a lawsuit from Iowa's Attorney General and threats to strip funding from his department. But Marks didn't back down. Instead, he doubled down, calling his position one of the constitutional clarity, not political defiance. His stance drew praise from immigrant advocacy groups and condemnation from state Republicans, making him a flashpoint in the national debate over local autonomy versus federal pressure. And that's what makes this moment so volatile. It's not just about immigration. It's about where authority ends and accountability begins. In California, where sheriffs still quietly hand over undocumented individuals to ICE, and in states like Iowa, where elected officials attempt to criminalize noncompliance with federal agendas, the question isn't whether the badge serves justice. It's whether it knows when to say no. Where the badge begins and ends is a story built on chaos, defiance, and the thin constitutional line some still fight to protect. And today's sources come from Politico. Judge rules Los Angeles police can't non-lethal weapons against journalists. Axios, LAPD can detain fireless lethal ammunition at journalists covering prospects. LAist, Los Angeles police cannot detain or fire weapons at journalists covering protests, judge rules. The Guardian, Australian reporter shot with rubber bullet while covering anti-immigration protests in Los Angeles. People.com, the New York Post photographer shot in the head by ruler rubber while covering immigration protests, LA. AP News, Iowa lawsuit says sheriff discouraged compliance with immigration law. Iowa Capitol Dispatch, Attorney General moves to strip Winnebago County of all state funding. While these sources specifically address the targeting of journalists, widespread video footage across social media clearly shows that protesters were also subjected to the same brutal tactics: rubber bullets, flashbangs, and other crowd control weapons used indiscriminately against civilians protesting. Thank you for listening. Until next time, bye-bye for now.